Hey kids! Ready to go to the movie theater to see The Wild Robot? Well, you can't, because it's my job as a responsible adult to protect you from trash. I know you wanted to see a cool animated robot movie, but I'm sure there are other robot movies you have at home to rewatch. Just tell your parents Jay Saki says, not this one. So the adults will sit around with cigarettes and alcohol and discuss this movie for you. Good evening, everyone. Jay Saki here, broadcasting from Pittsburgh. So as a doctor of cinema, I could talk older classic movies all day. But the show's producers told me I have to watch and review some new things so I can stay hip and relevant for the modern audience. I know. But into hell we must go. So when I saw the trailer for this movie some months back, I said to myself, I know exactly everything that movie is going to be about, and I wrote down a list of predictions before going to see the movie today. So this is my list of pre-written predictions going into the movie. The film will have a strong emphasis on non-traditional and surrogate families. You see that a lot these days in movies. A gang of misfits comes together and they're like, we're a family as good as any other. And any sane person is like, no you're not. You're a bunch of irresponsible men who need to get out more and see some girls. My other prediction was going to be there will be a theme about adoption, but it won't really be about the real hardships or nobility of adoption, but just a subtext of non-traditional family, aka you don't need the original parents to raise the child. The village can do it. Another prediction was the robot character will be genderless and will fulfill masculine and feminine qualities as needed for the plot. Then I predicted that there would be a bone to the dog moment where something will be inserted in there that could be interpreted as a conservative value so as to trick Christian reviewers into giving it a positive review. Also, there will be a theme about doing the right thing, but it will emphasize following your passions and not betraying your friends, thus giving no temptation or reason to do the wrong thing. So I saw the movie and I was correct on all those points except for one. It wasn't about not needing the original parents to raise the child. It was about how the traditional family would not have kept you alive, therefore killing them and letting someone else, in this case the genderless robot, take care of you, will save you, because you are a freak of nature and you need another freak of nature to save you. But Jay Saki, surely you jest. Well, let me proceed, my dear wedding guest, and let I, the ancient mariner, tell you this sad and tragic tale. So this story is about a robot waking up on some mysterious land. Is it Earth or an alien planet? I don't know. And it turns out to be a customer service robot of sorts. She adopts the nickname Roz. All the animals of the wild in this land are scared of her, but she keeps walking up to every one of them and is like, hey, I'm your customer service robot, how may I help? And all her interactions come up negative and she has to figure out why she's even here. There's hijinks, and then Roz eventually comes upon a gosling, as in a baby goose, who she adopts to take care of. The gosling later gets the name Brightbill, and Roz is always just trying to help all the wild animals everywhere she goes, and then there's more hijinks. So let's first address the elephant in the room, the robot character Roz. There's a discussion I have with myself when movies for adults, as well as kids, feature non-humans as the characters, whether it be animals, aliens, or robots. What is it teaching kids when you give self-aware sentience to such creatures? An immortal soul, if you will. Are you teaching kids that robots and animals are the same as humans? Okay, it's just a movie. Let's not go too far down this rabbit hole. For now, I'll just say maybe it's fine, but if you're going to make these sorts of movies, could we at least have these animal and or robot characters have the characteristics of humans or have human problems? Can we still have the story be about human things, falling in love, marriage, children, family, and heaven forbid, religion? Have the male characters be masculine and have the female characters be feminine. The more you drift away from that, the more inhuman the story becomes and the more you get a story that leaves you with brain rot. So this robot character Roz, who leads you through the story, she has no parents except an industry that made her. She raises a child on her own while acting in both the masculine and feminine capacity. And I'm not sure what even makes her a she other than she has a female robot voice. If you gave her a male robot voice and just changed the pronouns, then she could be a guy robot. She's near genderless in this movie. And I wouldn't be so anti-robot if the film just leaned into making the robot represent a female character or a male character. But she represents neither, so I can't work with that. Kids can't work with that. I know there are folks who would say, you're reading too much into it, but I'm honestly just incredulous if you're not seeing the writing on the wall. If the characters were all reading communist literature in a movie and then said, this is how we save society, and if I complained, would you be like, you're reading too much into it, Jay Saki. You're on a witch hunt, Jay Saki. Oh, I'm sorry. Are you saying witches don't exist, or are you saying let the witches run free? There's the bone to the dog moment, and that's where the writers are making an otherwise overtly anti-conservative film, but they have to do something to cover their tracks, so they have one small thing. They toss a bone to the dog to chew on. They toss some conservative bait into the film, so all those Christian reviewers can say, I like this, it totally embraces a biblical message. And in this case, when Roz discovers Bright Bill as an unhatched goose egg, she scans it and sees the baby gosling inside with its heart beating. And it's like the movie is saying, see, we believe life exists in the womb. This movie is totally pro-life film, everyone! So now I'll turn a blind eye to everything else that hates my values. Eat the slop before the slaughter, you dumb cows! So, a surrogate family is formed between Roz the robot and the gosling soon to be named Bright Bill. So Bright Bill is a runt and has a hard time flying. He even looks a little different. And of course all the other geese are like, you're a freak, and your mom's a freak. They're a family of freaks. And the writer of the film is like, do you think I overplayed that a little? And I'm like, no man, you underplayed that. You need more ways of saying their non-traditional family is not accepted. So I'm going to jump ahead a little to talk about another issue before I get to the big issue, which came about at the midway point of the film. So I predicted there would be a theme about doing the right thing, but any temptation to do the wrong thing would be removed, so the main character does what's right purely by following her passions. This was on point, but it was on point in more than one way. So if you've seen the trailer, you know at some point other robots show up and try to take Roz away, telling her she's gone off her programming. Come back to the factory so we can fix you. And this obviously is portrayed as a bad thing, and Roz flat out doesn't want to go because she likes her new life in the wild, so there's no temptation to go back to the factory and get a reset. But then this brings us to the animals of the wild who've given her a hostile treatment all the while. She walked around helping everyone regardless because she's a robot who's programmed to help customers. And so, because other robots are now trying to track her down, this Fox character goes to the other animals and gives this speech about how Roz helped and suffered for the forest animals even while everyone treated her and her kid like a freak. She didn't give up on us, so we can't give up on her. Now, this was a nice sentiment, but it fell flat because Roz was only too happy to help because she was a customer service robot who was programmed to help. If previously in the movie, Roz had to help the animals all while hating it and feeling rejected, you could say it was a huge sacrifice that finally paid off. But once again, there's no temptation to not help the animals, so I don't know what to do with that. No suffering, no glory. And the movie emphasizes that she's so helpful because she's programmed to be that way. But then later on in the movie, after she evolves and becomes sentient and falls in love with the wild, the other factory robots show up and are like, "You've gone against your programming. We need to take you back to reprogram you." Wahaha. So you might say the movie is getting its wires crossed in the messaging. I dare say, confusing its own programming. So let's go back to address the biggest issue I had, and that was killing the traditional family figuratively as well as literally. So Roz, the robot, finds Bright Bill while he's still in the egg, as I mentioned before. So how this all happens is Roz trips down a hill and falls on top of a nest and kills the parent goose. It's all lightly conveyed in a way that is blink and you'll miss it, but that's what happens. Thus, she takes care of the remaining egg in the nest. And much later, after Bright Bill hatches and is trying to fit in with the other geese, they're all like, "You realize the monster you call your mom killed your original family." And Bright Bill has an existential crisis and is like, "You killed my original family?" And then someone, I forget who, but someone gives a speech where it's basically said, "You were born to be a runt and a freak of nature, and you would not have survived in your original family. So Roz, by killing your family, could give you the proper attention your original family could not give you, because you need another freak of nature to understand you," and Bright Bill accepts Roz as his true parent. And that's when everyone in the cinema stood up and clapped, all while I barfed. That's when I realized I was in the theater with a coven of witches. Everyone was wearing black hoods and were drinking blood out of their soda cups and eating brains out of their popcorn bags. This movie is gross. But come on, Jay Saki, we all have a little satanic devil inside us that says, "Look the other way and just enjoy the pretty colors." Now, believe it or not, I'm not beyond doing that with movies. There are films that have messaging I disagree with, where I can go into it and say, I'm going to sell my soul to the pretty colors and have my only standard be, don't be bored. So were you bored, Jay Saki? Yes, I was. The film felt very desperate and very attention-grabbing. Anytime there was an emotional moment, it didn't give time to let it sink in. It just had to keep going. It was trying to insert dark humor constantly to be edgy, and it was so patently obvious what they were doing. I was bored, audience. I was bored. But Jay Saki, if I can't show this movie to my kids, what can I show them? Show them the Disney movie Follow Me Boys from 1966. That will order their brains correctly. That is all. That is all I have. Have a good night, folks.